The day I arrived in the Philippines, I was 65 years old. I had nothing but a suitcase, a fragile dream, and a heart full of anxiety. I used to be a woman living in San Jose, California. I had what you'd call a stable life, a rented apartment, health insurance, and long days spent staring at the clock. But there was one thing I didn't have: life. I existed, but I no longer felt alive. Why did I leave America to plans written on paper? I didn't come to the Philippines out of curiosity, for tourism, or to try living here. I came because I had no other choice. I was a single woman without a husband, without children by my side, and no fixed assets. I worked nearly 40 years in administrative healthcare. Not a bad salary, but never enough to buy a house in the Bay Area of California. Never enough to prepare for retirement as people advised. Then I quit my job at 64 after my hours were reduced. I lost my insurance and I developed chronic back pain. That's when I realized I was receiving about $1,800 a month from Social Security. I still remember the day when everything fell apart. One October afternoon, I sat in my tiny room in San Jose. Outside was a golden sunny afternoon, but inside it was freezing because I didn't dare turn on the heater. I checked the new rent prices. Blood pressure medication $120, internet $60, utilities $80, not to mention food, dental insurance, car expenses. I felt what I can only describe as suffocating in silence. No one knew. No one asked. No one noticed how I was slowly slipping out of society. I had considered living in my car. I had watched colorful van life videos on YouTube. People showed off wooden interiors, scented candles, sunset views by the beach. But the reality wasn't so romantic. I had an old friend. She was 72, living in an RV, parked at Walmart parking lots every night. No shower, no kitchen, eating cold sandwiches every night, hoping not to be kicked out. I asked her, "Isn't it lonely?" She smiled. Loneliness is not as scary as the feeling of having no choice. And then I thought, maybe I still have a chance to choose. One afternoon, I stopped by my regular cafe near home where people go to work remotely, meet friends, or simply kill time. I ordered a black coffee, took a napkin, and began writing. The first plan, I called it the survival plan. Stay in America. Live as minimally as possible. Cut dental insurance. Don't eat out. No gifts, no travel, no birthday celebrations. Hope I don't fall ill. Don't get sick. Don't feel alone. I read those words and my heart froze. Not from fear, but because I realized this wasn't a way to live. This was retreat. I flipped the napkin over and wrote the real-life plan. Leave America. Find a place where my pension is enough to have a home, a hot meal, and someone to talk to. Start over. It's late, but it's not too late. The name Philippines came to me not through books, but from an offhand remark by a young nurse who had volunteered in Cebu. She said something I'll never forget. They're poor, but not stingy. No air conditioning, but there's a cool breeze every afternoon. No one rushes, but everyone remembers each other's face. That night, I couldn't sleep. I thought about everything I would leave behind: the old calm chair my mother left me, the family photo album, the rows of red autumn trees in front of my rental house. But then I asked myself, I've kept all these things, but have I been able to keep my life? In the end, I chose not to choose escape, but to choose to live with dignity. I started selling everything little by little. Each sweater, every book. I kept only what was essential, packed into the suitcases, and I booked a one-way ticket to the Philippines. Some said I was reckless. Some called me crazy. But if you've ever woken up in a cold room in a wealthy country and still felt lost and drained, you'll understand. I had no better choice. Shocks of my life from the urban rhythm to the world of the heart. The flight from San Francisco to Manila was 14 hours long. I remember sitting next to a Filipino family. They were traveling back home to visit their grandmother. They gave me a small cake, talked to me as if we had known each other before. I was taken aback by their closeness. When the plane landed, the first air I breathed in was hot, humid, and lightly scented with smoke. But strangely, it wasn't unpleasant. It was vibrant. I felt like I had just stepped out of a cold box and was stepping into the real world. I chose to live in a small coastal village on the whole island. Not because I knew the place, but because the rent was cheap. There's no McDonald's there, no movie theaters, no Amazon, no honking horns in the morning. On the first day, I called the trickle to take me to the market. The driver was an hour and 15 minutes late. I stood there sweating, holding my phone tightly, my mind swirling with all kinds of questions. What if he forgot? What if I get lost? What if he tricks me? But then he arrived, grinning widely, scratching his head and saying, "Sorry, po may rain sarkanto traffic." Sorry, it rained at the corner. Traffic, I couldn't be angry. He was genuine and not in a hurry. That was the first shock. No one here lives by the clock. In America, every minute is money. Every second is productivity. Here, it's a smile. The second shock was that no one cared I was a foreigner. No one looked at me like a tourist. No one tried to sell me anything. Instead, they asked, "Are you alone? Can you cook? Would you like me to teach you how to make a dober?" I was used to the strange stares, the cold distance of American cities, where everyone looks down in the elevator. But here, strangers invite me into their homes for tea, share fresh coconuts from their gardens. The third shock was about my own heart. I've always been a control freak. I used to be a project manager. I used to live by plans, spreadsheets, schedules. But here, plans don't mean much. I remember one time I arranged to go to the market with my young neighbor at 8 o'clock a.m. I arrived on time. I waited 15 minutes and she didn't show up. I waited 30 minutes and still nothing. It was almost 9 o'clock a.m. when she finally appeared, basket in hand, casually saying, "Sorry, Po. I was putting my baby to sleep." Then she asked as naturally as could be, "Do you want fish or chicken today?" At that moment, I didn't feel angry. I felt ashamed. I realized I had brought with me invisible pressures from America. The rush, the measurements, the coldness, and I began to let go. Let go of the need to always be on time. Let go of the habit of checking emails every morning. Let go of the thought that I have to accomplish something every day to feel valuable. Here there are days when I just sit on the porch, listen to the birds, watch the kids play soccer, and drink tea with an 82-year-old woman who tells stories from the war. I do nothing. The Filipinos have a concept called pikisama, meaning harmony, living in peace with others. They don't force anyone, no competition, no putting the ego first. Here, I've learned to wait. Not because of passivity, but because people live by the rhythm of the heart, not the clock. I once thought I came here to find a place to live. But then I realized I came here to relearn how to live as a human being. A day in the seaside village eating with the heart. I used to think that the best days of life are the ones filled with change, the long trips, the promotions, the parties. But living in this seaside village, I've come to realize that happiness is actually very small. 6 o'clock a.m. I wake up before the sun even reaches my room. The distant crowing of a rooster echoes from the edge of the village. The sound of a knife hitting a chopping board floats. From the neighboring kitchen, the smell of coffee and drywood greets me as I start a new day. I no longer use an alarm clock. I no longer rush to make coffee in a paper cup to go. I slowly brush my hair, pull back the curtains, and sit down on the porch where I can watch the sun slowly rise above the water's edge. In America, I used to pay $4 for an imported avocado. Here I just reach my hand out behind the house. Pick a ripe avocado as big as my palm. The market in the village is a whole different world. No signs, no barcodes, no card swiping machines. Each stall is a conversation. "Lola, what kind of vegetables do you want this morning? This fish is still fresh. My wife just caught it at 4 o'clock a.m. These are free-range eggs from my farm. Take 5. I'll give you one more as a gift." I bought some Morning Glory tomatoes, a few cloves of garlic, and a piece of mackerel. Total about 90 pesos, less than $2. On the way back, I stopped by the small grocery store. I bought a pack of dried noodles and a few bars of soap. The store owner is the one who invited me to her daughter's birthday, even though I had only just arrived in the village a few weeks ago. Lola, what are you cooking today? Probably fish noodles. I'll send you some kaffir lime leaves for extra fragrance. My lunch is often very simple. A bowl of sour soup, a plate of fried fish, a bowl of rice. But when I eat, I don't look at my phone. I don't turn on the TV. I listen to the wind. I hear the sound of spoons tapping against the bowl, and I feel my heart calm. In America, I used to eat dinner alone in my room. Frozen food microwaved, usually standing up, eating hurriedly without feeling. Here, sometimes I'm invited to eat with the neighbors. We sit around a meal on the floor, sharing fish, chilies, and stories. They talk with their eyes, with their laughter. I remember one time the neighbor's son brought me a plate of grilled fish. He said, "Today my dad caught a big fish. Mom said we should share it with you because you live alone." I didn't know what to say except thank you, but my throat tightened. I wasn't used to that kind of unconditional care. Here, sharing doesn't need a reason. At dinner, I drink ginger tea that I made myself from the ginger root I bought in the morning. The tea is hot. My eyes look out at the dark sea. I hear the insects buzzing and my heart is strangely peaceful. That's how my day goes. No specific plans, no meetings, no deadlines. No one reminds me of what I should do to prove my worth. I just live and feel every small moment with all my heart. Illness in the Philippines and the gentle hands. I used to fear one thing the most: getting sick while living abroad alone. Before coming to the Philippines, I watched dozens of videos, read hundreds of articles about the medical risks of living in a developing country. I imagined myself having a high fever in the middle of the night with no one knowing. I was afraid. I'd lie curled up in bed, trembling, unable to afford medical bills or understand what the doctor was saying. But then I got sick and the experience was completely different from everything I imagined. In the 4th month of living in the village, on a gloomy day, I felt a chill down my spine. My body had. I coughed intermittently. At first, I thought it was just a mild cold, but by the 3rd day, I started running a fever. No family, no international insurance, no family doctor. I fumbled around trying to find the number for the local health center. Then the landlord, the woman who would bring me pandan leaves every week, found me lying limp in my room. She didn't ask if I had money. She didn't ask if I had insurance. She simply said, "Lola, shall I call a trickle to take you to the hospital?" We went to a small clinic. No bright logos, no fancy receptionists, no lofty English signs. Just a small house, an open window, a fan whirring steadily, and a doctor wearing an old white coat. I waited less than 15 minutes. The doctor came, took my pulse, asked gently in simple English with a caring look in his eyes, "Sola, it could be a mild case of pneumonia. I recommend you get an X-ray today." I took a tricycle to the X-ray facility 10 minutes away. A small place, but clean and efficient. 30 minutes later, I returned to the clinic with the results. Total cost 530 pesos, less than $6. There was no receipt as long as a toilet paper roll. No hidden fees, no insurance required, no need for referrals, just care like from a family member. After prescribing the medication and offering some advice, the doctor asked, "Do you live alone? Is anyone making porridge for you?" I forced a smile. "I'll probably just eat instant noodles tonight." That afternoon, while I was resting, I heard a knock on the door. It was the nurse from the clinic bringing a jar of hot chicken. "Porridge," she whispered. "My mom asked me to bring this to you. A lot of ginger to keep you warm." I cried. Not because of the illness, but because I never thought that I, a stranger coming from somewhere far away, with no blood relation, no family ties, would have someone cook porridge for me, hand-delivered, not out of obligation, not for money. In America, to see a doctor, I'd have to make an appointment 2 weeks in advance, wait for hours, sign paperwork, pay hundreds of dollars for one x-ray. Here I'm called Lola, which means grandmother, a term of affection, a recognition that I am a part of this community. There's no international hospital, no Harvard doctors, but I've received something that no medical school can teach. It's humanity, a hand placed gently on your shoulder when you're weak. A bowl of chicken porridge delivered at the exact moment you need it most. Here. I was sick, but I was not alone. The psychology of an old person changing after leaving home. I didn't just leave America. I left the things at once to find who I was. I used to be a mortal woman. I worked on time, paid taxes, didn't bother anyone, didn't make mistakes. A good cog in the American social machine. But at some point, people started to look at me as if I were a burden. No one said it outright, but I could feel it. As I got older, I noticed myself slowly being excluded from conversations, slowly being seen as someone who doesn't understand technology, who can't keep up with the times. When I retired, no one called to ask, "Are you okay?" No one invited me to lunch anymore. No one needed my advice. I once cried just because my phone kept notifying me with messages from the bank, but there was complete silence on my birthday. People don't say it out loud. But you know you're no longer important. Then I went to the Philippines. I didn't expect anything other than to live, but what I got was a different version of myself. I started smiling, not awkwardly, not out of politeness, but because my heart felt lighter. I began telling stories and people listened sincerely. I started feeling needed, not for money, but because I was Lola, the grandmother in the village, the neighbor who could teach how to make pumpkin soup, sew clothes, or watch the kids for a while. Here, old people are not sidelined. They are part of the community. Young people don't say old people are outdated. They say Lola has experience. Ask her. Children don't avoid the elderly. They climb into my lap, hold on to my hands, asking me to tell stories as if I have a treasure, and they're eagerly opening it. One day at a time, I once thought I had reached the end of the road. But it turns out I was just changing lanes. And in this new lane, I'm no longer an invisible old woman. I am a person of value in a very natural and human way. No one asks me, "What are you doing to contribute to society?" Instead, they ask, "Have you eaten yet? Are you cold? Are you sad?" In America, people taught me how to be useful. Here, people teach me how to be loved without needing to prove anything. In the afternoon, I often sit on the porch, watching the sky turn orange. A little child runs by, shouting, "Lola, I'll come play tomorrow." I smile and nod, and I silently think, yes, tomorrow. I still have a date with life lessons from ordinary people. I used to read many books on personal development. I attended seminars on living optimally, mastering time and millionaire mindset. But the most important lessons of my life came from people who had no degrees, no books, no stages. They only had one thing, a genuine heart. I learned compassion from a woman whose husband left her, but she still cooked for him every day when he broke his leg. I once asked her, "Why do you still help him?" She smiled, saying as if it were nothing special, 15 years together when there's no love. There's still kindness. He's not used to eating alone. I learned simple love from a young man who worked as a boatman. His salary wasn't enough to feed himself, but he still saved up all week to buy his girlfriend a seashell. He said she loves the sea. I found this when cleaning the trash near the bay. I polished it with sand for days. And when he gave it to her, he simply said, "I don't have much money, but I have the sea and I have you." I learned silent responsibility from an 84-year-old woman who lived alone. Every morning she would wake up early and walk along the beach picking up trash. No one paid her. No one thanked her. I once asked, "Why do you do this?" She replied softly, "So my grandchildren can still have fish to eat." I once thought that people who didn't study much didn't know how to live deeply. But they taught me that kindness doesn't need a reason. It doesn't need logic. All it needs is to be present at the right time in the right way with the right heart. In America, I once lived next to neighbors for 10 years without ever knowing their names. Here, I know the name of the child with the cat. I know the birth date of the fish seller. I know who likes black coffee and who likes it sweet. And they know me not just as a foreign grandmother, but as Lola Linda, the one who often tells fairy tales to the little ones. The one who loves eating green mango with chili salt. I realize the value of life isn't in grand words. It's in small repeated actions, quietly without anyone praising. Here I learned the greatest lesson. You don't have to be skilled to live well. Just live kindly and you've already enriched the world. What would I say to someone wanting to leave America? I don't advise anyone to leave America because I don't know what your life is like. I only know my own story. At the age of 65, I once felt like a shadow in my own country. If you're hearing this story and you're thinking about leaving, I'm not telling you to go. I only advise you. Don't stay just because of habit. Don't think that just because you've lived here your whole life, you can't live somewhere else. Don't stay where you're withering every day just because your friends think you're crazy. And don't believe that a new life isn't for you just because you're no longer young. I have a small rule. Don't take advice from those who've never lived the life you're afraid of. Many people told me, go into the Philippines. It's dangerous. You're old. Who's going to take care of you? But those same people had never left their state. They had never felt the warm sunlight of a coastal village. Never eaten a meal cooked with all the heart. Never had a stranger child call them grandma. If you're in doubt, I advise you come as if you're going on vacation. Don't come as if you're running away. Try living for a month, then 3 months, then decide. Don't sell everything. Don't rush to buy a house. Don't ship all your belongings. Just bring a light heart and eyes ready to start over. You might return to America. You might not. But the important thing is that you dare to try. Because if you don't try, you'll never know. Somewhere far away, a happier version of yourself might be waiting. If there was something someone needed to say to me before I left, I wish they had said, go. If your heart is no longer here and today I say that to you, what do you need if you want to try living here? After everything I've shared, maybe you're asking yourself if I want to try. What do I need to prepare? I won't give you a tourist guide. I will only share what I've done and what I wish I knew earlier. It's not about letting go completely. It's about letting go of some control. You can't come here and expect everything to be like it is in America. The Philippines is in America, and that's the beauty of it. Be ready to relearn from the smallest things. How to shop at the market, how to ask for directions with your hands, how to slow down yet still feel the day was not wasted. I live in the province, not in big cities like Manila or Cebu. The cost of living here is much lower. If you have about $1,500 to $2,000 per month, you can live comfortably renting a small house $150 to $300, food $150 to $250, transportation $50 to $100, regular medical checkups $1,030. Keep a backup fund $300 to $400. The rest can go towards experiences, travel, or helping the community. You can stay in the Philippines for 30 days without a visa if you have a UDAS passport. After that, you can easily extend for 1 to 2 months without leaving the country. I've lived for 3 years by extending my tourist visa. It wasn't difficult or expensive. If you want to settle long-term, you can look into a retirement visa. This requires a bank deposit. But don't rush, try living first. You don't need to be skilled, but knowing how to greet, thank and apologize in the local language will open your heart, and the hearts of the people here will do the same. I still remember the first time I said salamat po thank you to the vegetable seller. She smiled broadly and called me a po, meaning grandchild. That's when I knew I was accepted. I once packed 5 suitcases, but ended up using only 2. I thought I'd need everything. A coffee maker, an electric blanket, English books. But here, I don't need things. I need connection. Bring a few family photos, a notebook, something that makes you feel like yourself, and that's enough. If you want Walmart, McDonald's open 24/7 for 7th or precise on-time services, you'll be disappointed. But if you're ready to have lunch with the neighbors by hand, hear the rooster crowing in the early morning, laugh sincerely with the fish seller, then you'll find you didn't come here to live cheaply, but to live truly. I didn't have a perfect plan when I left America. I only had a small belief that somewhere there might be another life for me. And it turns out the Philippines isn't a reward. It's a new beginning. One I didn't know I needed so much. A life that's not glamorous, but real. I once lived in a rich, modern, fully equipped country, but I never felt complete. I had air conditioning, but still felt cold. I had high-speed Wi-Fi, but felt empty inside. I had a packed schedule, but I couldn't remember the last time I laughed sincerely in the Philippines. I don't have a car. I walk or sit behind a tricycle. I don't have large supermarkets. I go to the morning market and choose fresh bundles of dew-covered vegetables. I don't have a credit card, but I have a small notebook where I write the names of the people who've invited me to share a meal. So, one day I can invite them back. I don't live in a big house, but I have a porch where every evening I sit and watch the sea, greet the neighborhood kids, and write a few lines in my journal. Each line begins with 2 words, thank you. I once thought I had lived 65 years, but now I believe only when I came here did I truly begin to live. Live not to prove anything. Live not to keep up with anyone. Live just to be present fully, freely, peacefully. I'm not saying the Philippines is a paradise. There's no perfect place. But here, it gave me something I've been searching for my whole life. A life that's not glamorous, but real. If you're hearing these words, maybe your heart is calling you to a different place. To live differently, to become a person you've forgotten. And if so, I hope you have the courage to go, not to run away, but to return to yourself. I am Linda. I no longer live in San Jose. I live in a small coastal village where every morning I hear the rooster crow and every evening I hear my heart beating in peace. If you've listened this far, I believe somewhere in your heart, there's a small dream of a different life. If this story touched you, if it made you remember who you are, or made you want to start over, leave a comment. Tell me, where are you on your journey? What are you carrying in your heart? And if you could, where would you want to start over? I read every comment, and I reply because I believe no one should walk the journey of change alone. If you think this video is worth it, hit like, subscribe to the channel so that stories like this continue to be told, continue to be lived. Who knows? Maybe one day we'll sit together here on the porch drinking ginger tea and tell each other we were brave enough to live truly.